bringing this meeting of the Manchester Board of Selectmen to order, 6:30 PM. If everyone would silence their phones, and if anyone's recording the meeting, please let us know. Other than that, we'll be good to go, and we're going to move with great alacrity and such. Okay. So first, we're going to open up a public hearing for the conduit construction on Desmond Ave. Do I have a motion? Motion to open. Second.
Second.
Here we go.
Here we go.
Open. Here we go. Just usual. Okay, so, National Grid. Oh, here, you need to, this doesn't, yeah, I think it's on. Just,
My name is Elizabeth Cardarelli, representing National Grid. Petition request for the installation of approximately 160 feet, plus or minus, of two 3-inch PVC conduit. It would be going from manhole 342 to the customer-owned handhole, which is on the property of 17 Desmond Ave, Manchester by the Sea.
anything outstanding about this, or
Nothing.
complicated? Any road closures, anything?
It should be minimal.
Okay,
The customer is going to be doing the work within the street, so
Okay.
they are going to be getting a road opening permit.
okay,
Our civil group will be there to punch out of the manhole, to allow them to come and meet us at that point. But the customer will be doing the majority of the work.
okay, and will it be restored back to?
It should be,
Okay.
yes.
Now, will that be your responsibility or the customers?
The customer's the contractor, yes. And they're well aware of that.
Okay, just
They
wanna
know
make
how
sure.
that works. And if it's a traveled street, they cover them and make sure that it's filled. Generally, they'll work out something with our trench inspector to make sure that that's done within a very timely fashion to make sure it's closed up quickly.
Okay. Any other questions? Any other public hearing comments? Okay, with that, I'll take a motion to close.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and will, a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the request from National Grid to install conduit in the public way in the vicinity of 17 Desmond Ave.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, you're all set. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Okay, you just put it there, thanks. Okay, second public hearing, I'll take a motion to open a new liquor license for Antique Table at 7 Central Street.
So moved.
I'm just curious, just out of technicality, is it Antique Table or is it liquor license 7 Central Hospitality that's actually getting the? Okay. Second?
We are moving a little quick here, but we're due for 7:45, but I think we're okay to go ahead with that. If something comes up. You think that's all right? Whatever. We can wait 10 minutes.
Well, you would just, if someone comes in at 7:45,
We can do it.
you would have to.
Okay. All right. Okay, Mr. Barkley.
Good evening. Paul Barkley, 38.
Oh,
Paul, you need to take, yeah, come on now.
Good evening, Paul Barkley from 38 Central Street. I'm currently the general manager of 7 Central, located right across the street. Open 7 nights a week, entertainment a weekend. So we're in the process of turning our restaurant over to a restaurant that I absolutely love. I've been a fan of for years. One of the people involved I've been friends with since the late 70s. It's a perfect restaurant for Manchester, every way, shape, and form. I've actually brought a menu tonight for you guys to look at and see what great food they'll be serving here and what great value it is for everybody. So, we sold the building to Edward Flavia back in April with the intention of finding the right tenant to take over the space. We had a lot of people who asked for the space, a great deal of people, but when we came across the antique table, we knew exactly the right person. So we're basically assigning our lease. It's a very simple 2-page document. They will take all our possessions in exchange for that lease at $10, which I haven't got yet, but I will. And hopefully they will be open by late January. Our last night of existence will be New Year's Eve, and you're all invited. So, to my right is Matthew Gateman, and he's going to be the general manager of the property. And we'll turn this over to him right now.
Thank you.
How you doing? My name is Matthew Gateman. I'll be the general manager and part owner. So, like Paul just said, we brought you a menu from the other antique table. So there's 4 locations right now, and this is going to be number 5. We think the city would be perfect.
So before we take any other, I do have a public comment. I want to thank you, Paul, for all the great, wonderful things you did at 7 Central. I want to thank you for all the wonderful things you did at 7 Central for the years that you were here and supporting the community above and beyond just being a restaurant owner. So we thank you for that. And thank you. Yes, yes, yes. So anyway, and welcome. We're glad to have you here. Okay, so any questions? This is to approve the liquor license. I'll take a motion.
I do
Oh, wait,
have a
stop. Can't take a motion to close first. Go ahead. Question.
And this is just, will you be involved in any way with this, or you're completely out?
My father, Abraham, who was basically founded the restaurant. I told Abraham I wanted to speed out my question, but no, this is a complete, with, welcome, city restaurant.
And does he know about snowstorms that you're open and down there? Just
Get your $10 first, then you can.
yeah.
All right, good. Any other public comment on this? All right, then I need to take a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now we'll take a motion to accept the liquor license.
Motion to accept the liquor license for Antique Table, formerly The Landing at 7 Central, located at 7 Central Street, Manchester.
Second.
Any other comments? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? There we go. Congratulations.
Welcome to town.
Welcome.
I'm gonna miss you, Paul. I'm gonna miss you.
We'll see you. Thank you.
I'm not going to shake your hand, I apologize.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are you
Good to see you.
vegetarian?
Welcome.
Oh, good. And I mean, I would love to
Oh,
shake, here, we'll do an air shake. Air shake.
Can't wait. Thank you very much. Take
Thank
care.
you.
Bye. All right, take care.
Oh, you will, I'll be there.
All right.
Bye, Paul.
Bye. All right. So we are now on the liquor license renewals, is that right?
Yep. Common victuals, et cetera.
Okay. So, can we do this or we should wait? Oh,
If there's a possibility you do not have a property in the file, that if you do need,
oh, okay.
I apologize.
Is that the check sheet?
In the packet, there's a reference to a attachment.
Bank statement, that
No,
attachment?
it's more of a sign of, I do apologize.
That's
I've been
okay.
touching on it,
That's okay.
so excited to see the question. So, in the, I do apologize, you want to read this, or? You want to read it?
No, we'll just do it as
Okay,
a,
so in this, there's a consent assignment.
okay.
It references a exhibit A. Resolution exhibit A.
Okay,
So it's an easy thing to miss, but
okay.
you interpret exhibit A as the full lease, which is 38 pages.
Right.
It's not, it's this. So
Okay.
if I could submit this, just so I make sure you have it.
Okay. Is that copy for us?
Those would be.
Okay, all right, we'll
Okay,
make
and
sure.
I do apologize for that previously.
That's okay, we got them, so we should be in good shape. All right, Sonia, you want to put this with us?
Yeah, it is, it's an addendum, so.
Want to give it to
on-
Sonia?
On this, okay, so, on the consent assignment and amendment of lease, it refers to an, Article A, Exhibit A. And so that had to be signed by, myself and Matthew, and then on the consent of assignment, amendment of lease, that had to be signed by,
That's not this one here? has all the signatures on it?
Yeah, we need that.
Not that one?
Yes, but it had to be confirmed by the attorney, which is the, okay, as soon as you have it. So if you have it where it says consent to assign amendments. You have that, okay.
We didn't make the whole package for them.
Yeah,
But
but
Oh,
but they
okay.
have, she has the whole, no, I understand, I understand.
so I want to give you this copy. It's basically, it basically says that my lease is now released, and it's signed by the trustee of the property, myself, as representative from our corporation, and Matthew. So I think you should have that.
Okay.
So I saw something like that, just not that, something that didn't.
Well, why don't we just give it to Sonia?
Same document.
With all the signatures.
But I requested you accept all the pages in case there's been something changed on it,
Yep.
a word or a sentence.
Okay.
a paragraph.
So that's the final.
Yeah, so this is
Okay.
the final, and the copy you had was not signed by the nominee trustee.
Got it. Okay,
But you now have it.
thank
And
you.
I'm sorry for the confusion.
That's okay, glad we have
It
it.
didn't mean it wasn't a little confusing.
We'll do it later for
It's okay, we understand.
Thank
All
you
right, thanks again, Paul.
Bye, Paul.
All right, so, I know we're a little bit early on this, but,
So I wonder if you want to jump ahead to consent and correspondence, do that, and then
Okay.
back up.
sure,
I don't want to get too far ahead,
Yeah.
that's all.
we're gonna do something about our timeframes on this, because I tend to move a little quicker.
You know,
Okay, it's hard, I know.
well, we just,
Yeah.
we
Okay.
never would guess.
All right, well, why don't we
Opposite
take
of
up,
what
we'll take up item number 7,
Yeah,
the consent agenda, which are the Board of Selectmen minutes for December 3rd, the Robert Sanford proclamation, Friends of the Trees application, the Admiral Valley Post 113 Region Change of Manager, and accept donations to the fire and the police departments. Anything need to come out of that? Do we
the
know?
donation, I don't,
Right.
I'm
We don't have the
sorry.
number yet.
I think we're skipping over that. I just want to check one thing there. Yeah, we're skipping that tonight.
Okay, all right, so I will take a motion for the consent agenda for the first 4 items, the minutes, the proclamation, Friend of the Tree application, and the change of manager.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And we'll move to the donations for fire and police to January 7th. Correspondence, we have a letter from Xfinity regarding TV changes and a memorandum from Lieutenant Fitzgerald about the state accreditation assessment. I do want to note for the record that the accreditation of our police department is a really important issue, and it's something that these folks have been working on diligently for quite some time. And the fact that we are now at the assessment phase, which means we're close to the end, is a really big win for us. I think I know I started talking about this 4.5 years ago, so
Wow.
it's been a long process coming, but it's really great. I want to thank Lieutenant Fitzgerald for leading this, and certainly under Ed's, the chief's leadership as well. So it's a big momentous thing, which is good.
So it's, the final review is January 8th and 9th.
Yeah.
And starting on the 8th in the morning, it would be appropriate, if you had time, to attend the beginnings, the introductory session.
If we were to do that?
So that would be here about 8:45. I'll confirm the
Okay,
time.
yeah. You send us
January
a note.
8th. And if you had a few remarks about the
Yeah.
operations of the department, it would be appropriate.
Great.
Would that be all of us or just Susan or?
It can
What
be
is-
as many as you like.
Yeah.
A couple, a
You
couple
could-
would be fine.
We'll coordinate that.
I should be able to make that.
8:45?
Yeah.
Yes, but let me confirm.
Okay. So
It's either 8:45 or 9.
Great.
So it'll be
Well,
that
one of
one.
us, somebody will be here for that.
The 8th.
Oh, January?
Yeah.
Okay. It's the
Police accreditation.
police assessment for accreditation. for state accreditation. Okay.
Yes.
All right, anything else on that? Um,
You gonna go to my
do you want
report if
to
you
run to
like?
your report? Or do that one?
Are we still on correspondence or?
We
about to
can.
leave it,
We're
but-
about to leave it. Do you have a question?
Well, I was just curious about the letter that we received, the hard copy and the email from Lori McCausland,
Oh, about the.
the eelgrass.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, and I'm just curious, has anybody gotten back to her yet? Because she did ask.
So extensively,
Okay, okay.
yes.
And I tried to go on and look at the maps. And not able to get online, just the way I was doing it, but.
So, thank you for catching that. I actually met with her with Bion and
Chris
Christine,
Bertoni.
Chris Bertoni, and Greg as well. We met a week ago, or last Friday, was it? Thursday or Friday, or Monday or Tuesday? Anyway, last week.
Last week,
And
last
we went
Monday.
through a long process, connect her with a bunch of agencies. She's working with us to help educate and also do that. The culmination is there's going to be a hearing about all this in January, on the 16th, I believe,
16th, yes.
which is everything coming to
Here?
that direction.
Or-
It's at the.
Probably at the Legion.
I was gonna say, there needs
It's
to
gonna
be
be
a
a big
space.
deal.
for
So
that.
this is all gonna go out in a public message at the beginning of January. But it was acknowledged, we met, we followed up, and,
Okay.
yeah, so thank you for bringing that up.
Well, I just,
Yeah.
okay, so the 16th at what time?
16th at 6 or 6:30. I'll have to double check.
Confirm that.
Okay.
There'll be notices and flyers
Yeah.
out about that.
I just want to make sure I get it on here.
And you know what, just as a quick update, there are a lot of meetings happening in January.
Yeah.
We've got the board training, so we should, after this meeting, maybe take 2 minutes and just get the
Yeah.
calendar together so we can get
Mhm.
that out to everybody tomorrow. That would be great. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. So, why don't we do your report, Greg?
Sure. So the first things first, with Christmas next week, just need a decision on Monday in terms of, normally it's a half a day, day before Christmas. Falling on a Monday, it's a
Let me see.
little problematic in terms of.
I mean, just,
it-
Don't see any reason to open the building.
I don't see any reason why not. I just think that's kind
Right,
of,
there's
yeah,
no reason to.
Right, that was my inclination, I just wanted
Yeah.
to confirm
yeah.
we were okay with that.
Matter of fact, all the reason for doing that.
And then the following Monday, the 31st, we normally end a little early on New Year's Eve, but it's not a. normal
That's
day
fine.
off.
I would like to be open just if there's any last minute
Yes,
things that have to happen before year end.
right, so I would say we are open, if people want to take leave time, they can, but officially we'll be open.
Yeah, I would like to make sure we do that, because sometimes if there's, whatever, just to make sure. So it's fine. Good.
So we'll do that. As you know, we had, you had to change your passwords for the system, just as part of, actually, it's related to the accreditation in terms of more sophisticated round of passwords and making sure people are changing them regularly. So we implemented that change this past week. Work on the senior center. We had a good walkthrough the other day of the potential building in town.
Oh, and I just wanted to, it's B-Y-R-N-E, the last name, not B-U-R-N-S.
Oh, Sam Burns.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
So
Yeah.
it's just B-Y-R-N-E.
Yeah. Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
It's a nice offer.
So I think it's very, very doable space. There's a lot of space, particularly in the warehouse section. It has lots of potential.
Mhm.
And then the offices need some renovation, but certainly very, very doable, very workable in terms of what the needs are. I think the issue will come in terms of the length of the lease and what sort of timeline and how much, if we need to put up money up front or not. In my head, I think in the sort of 8 to 10 year range probably is what would be needed. We haven't had that detailed conversation yet, so that's, to me, that's sort of the nub of that. negotiations potentially. So, I don't know if you have any thoughts on
Is
that.
there a next step in that negotiation?
So, sitting down
We're
with,
going to sit down again
yes.
after the first thing.
So I think this is great, and it's a wonderful opportunity. I go back to what we committed to earlier on with the senior friends of the Council on Aging. And one of the things that I want to make sure we do, and I'm not saying that we should stall or push this out anyway, but at the parallel to this should be a document written about our process and the plan.
and the different options.
And the different options
Yes.
and all of that. So I want to make sure that we have that for our January 7th meeting that outlines what we're doing and why we're doing it, so we have the context.
Right.
Because we talked about going out and looking at different sites and I want to make sure that we do our due diligence, not to hold up anything that can happen, but I want to make sure that we document and have a process for making this decision. And I think, as you said before, it'll be a combination of Nancy, Hammond taking the lead from the Council on Aging here and working with the Friends. And so I really want to see sort of I would personally like to see this pretty well mapped out. Does that make sense?
When you say mapped out, I'm just
What's the
curious.
plan? So we're looking for a senior center, here's the process of what we're going to do, here's how the public will be engaged, here's what will the options, there's these options, this is what we're looking to narrow down, so that we have a context for making a decision. Okay. Great.
Just an update on our disability case. Frustratingly slow. Hoping that we will have an update. I've asked the labor attorney to come in probably on the 7th to provide an update. Hopefully we have some new information at that point.
Is this a normal time frame, or is there some reason it's?
So none of the cases that were heard about last spring, last late winter, they have not been issued either. So we're not unique in being held up in a decision. Some cases right before us have just been released with the decision, so maybe we're close. But it's certainly, I've asked both parties to ask. So just so it doesn't look like one is nudging more than another. So we'll hopefully get a response. So the budget, review gets underway. The Finance Committee will be meeting tomorrow, Wednesday night, to start in on flagging what issues they identify and then doing follow-up with that. It would be helpful if you could all do the same. And, let me know what what issues that you think rise to the top and need further review and further discussion as we go forward in the next 2 months.
I would love to say that each board member will let our attorney know if there's any questions, thoughts, crazy ideas, document them, send them to Greg so you can compile all of that for us.
Yes, exactly.
That would be great. So I would love to say by January 7th at the latest, let's get at least our first round of information and thoughts into Greg.
Regarding the budget?
Yes.
Okay.
One thing I didn't put on is the research being done on the school bonding options.
All right.
So that is the collecting good information from bond counsel and the bank on different options. So we presented to the voters that the annual debt service would be in the range of 1.7 million, assuming a 5% interest rate in a 30-year payment. You can do it as a level payment, level debt service every year, just like your home mortgage typically is done that way. Or you can do it on a declining basis. So it starts out higher, you pay higher initial principal, but as that principal declines, your interest payments decline as well, and so you get declining payments. That's the norm, I would say, that most projects are bonded. Sometimes it's advantageous just for other reasons to want to get a set amount every year that stays the same. You do pay more in interest on a level payment plan. And for us, 27 million, it's quite a bit of interest. It's a few $1 million worth of extra interest payments. So it obviously will depend on the actual interest rate that we pay. If the current rates don't go much higher, it's likely we will be at right around 4%. And at 4% on a declining basis, annual payment basis, the highest is right around just over 1.7. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. It's a little higher than 1.7. There's about 4 years where it's over 1.7. It's about 1.8, not quite 1.9 at the absolute highest. But there's only 4 years that it does. On the 30-year average, it's below 1.5. So the question was, were you okay with going above that 1.7 number? We could probably tweak it so that it stays at 1.7. You just push it. For a couple of those years, those 4 years, you would phase out a bit further out. So I'm just looking for some feedback on your feelings about sticking to that 1.7. Is that a line in the sand, or do you feel there's some flexibility there?
I personally think it would be a good discussion to have with the FinCom.
Yes, and we'll have that
And,
discussion
yeah,
Wednesday.
So I would have it with them. My general thought is if it can be smoothed out and it's not that big of a bump, it's not like you're going to 2.8 or something.
Right.
I think whatever makes the most sense. I know there was a lot of energy around looking at the interest rates and the possibility of locking something in and doing something on a longer term basis or whatever it would take
Right.
to do that. So I think just getting that nailed down and seeing what their recommendation is, and then I would love to have our full board.
Sure.
able to
No,
talk about that.
we'll talk about more in January.
Exactly. But I think directionally, it makes sense, depending on if it's a smoothing bump and that can be done. I'm not going to worry going up to 1.8 for a few years.
Okay. All right.
At least that's
So the
my-
other
I don't know if anything comes-
The other big question, it's hard to predict it accurately in terms of looking into a clear crystal ball. So are we near a peak of interest rates for now, and is it going to drop, so we should wait a couple of years
Yeah.
and do temporary borrowings now? Or if we can get a 4%, should we just grab it? And if it drops to 3.75, well, we got 4 and it didn't go higher than
Yeah.
that.
But those are good questions.
Yes.
We don't have the answers
And if we
yet.
all knew the answer to
Yeah,
that,
we'd
we'd.
be very rich, yeah, no, I agree.
So that's what we're debating.
Okay, no, that's good update.
So we'll keep you posted, and so final decisions will be needed towards the end of January.
Good. Okay,
Yeah, that's.
okay, very good. All right, so we covered those things. We are now back on the schedule. Which I'm a little late. We'll do our public hearing on the liquor license renewals.
What about the tree ordinance? I'm just curious about that.
Oh,
What about the tree ordinance, Greg? What was that?
a draft of a new tree ordinance DPW is working on.
Oh, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
it's not, oh, yeah,
Nothing for tonight.
Okay.
they're just looking at it, I guess. That's okay.
I'm sorry.
It was the last item here, I missed
Yeah,
it.
it didn't come out. on-
No, I was just curious about that. It was just sort of-
So, DPW is still working on the language for an ordinance. Friends of Manchester Trees they would like to give some input on that, so we'll listen to their ideas. But when it's ready to be brought forward, it'll be an agenda item, and it'll be a public meeting, and we'll take it from there.
Okay, now can we get the liquor license?
Miscellaneous licenses.
Miscellaneous licenses, thank you. So we have the common, I can't say the word, victual, well,
It's a tough word.
I can't say it, victular license. Do we need to take these independently?
You should read
Okay.
Well, I would do the common vic licenses as a
Yeah.
group and then the other miscellaneous as a group.
All right, so the common vic, that's a good way to say it, license applications, we have 22 of them. Now that the landing is back up, are we approving that one with as, I thought we did this in our last meeting. All right, so we should hold. I thought we did this in our last meeting.
Yeah,
Oh, this is different.
This is their food license.
Oh, okay, thank you. Okay. So we'll hold on that one. So I'll just run through these quickly. For the 2019 Common Vic license applications, we have Foreign Affairs, Cape Ann Stores, Allen's Pharmacy, Admiral Bailey Post, American Legion, Alley's Beach Street Cafe, Braga Donut Fours, Captain Dusty's Neighborly Restaurant Group, also doing business as Callis, OPP LCC, DBA Superfine, Crosby's Marketplace, Essex County Club, First Parish Church, Essen, Manchester Fitness, Manchester Bath and Tennis, Manchester Community Center, Bravo by the Sea, Seabreeze Variety, also known as Richdale's, Sacred Heart Parish Hall, Singing Beach Club, Old Corner Inn. And we're holding on the landing, which is moving into the new piece from the paperwork, and the Singing Beach Canteen doesn't renew until the spring. So those are the licenses for that.
what is Braga Donut?
Dunkin' Donuts.
Duncan.
Oh, there we go, thank you, that makes sense.
So I'll take a motion to approve the common vic license application.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We have the inn holders and the lodging house licenses and the used car dealership and the livery, private livery. So we've got the Old Corner Inn, Essex County Club, Junie Van Dyke Farrell Lodging House, Manchester Auto Body, Foreign Affairs, and the Edward B. Cushing.
No, Foreign Affairs, it says they're not renewing.
Oh, sorry, got those last three or not, you're right, okay. So we only have 4. The Old Corner Inn, Essex County Club, Judy Van Dyke, and the Manchester Auto Body. So those are the 4.
Well, should we be doing Edward Cushing
I think you
pending?
can, I think you could approve that pending that.
All right, we're just, he has to finish his query, okay,
Okay, so he submitted all the paperwork except the close.
okay.
And he has submitted that, and we're just doing breakfast.
Okay. So I'll take a motion for those.
Before we do the license renewal on Manchester Auto Body, is there anything that's holding them up? Have they done what they were supposed to do regarding, isn't that the one that's
It's
not?
not the same
No,
group.
that's not this,
Okay, scratch that.
right, so
Motion
that's the
to
different,
Motion to approve pending the final query check for Ed Cushing.
So moved.
Second. No, they're
Because
not
they're not
renewing.
renewing because they're changing.
I don't know if they're getting up right
So they'll come back if they need to. So we're just doing Old Corner Inn, Essex County Club, Judy Van Dyke and Manchester Auto Body, and Edward Cushing, provisioning that his query check comes in. Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, good. Done. All right, we are now on to our Chowder House discussion, right on time. That's awesome. Come on up, gentlemen. Sorry. It's okay.
I'm hungry over here.
You need to grab the mic.
All right. So just as a framing up point here, the board had asked, based on some input from one of our citizens, but in addition to just some good practice, we've come through a segment of time where we've done a change in leadership at DPW. We've done a lot of modifications relative to project management. This is a look back on the Chowder House as a project. We asked to have an external folks engaged in doing a review of that, and tonight we're going to be talking about the results of that review. So I'll hand over to you, Chuck, and you can.
Okay, so I'm Chuck Dam, DPW Director. I also have Nate DeRozier, who's our Project and Facility Manager, who's also new to town since the Chowder House project, as well as John Bobrick of Bobrick Engineering, who was the person that conducted the peer review. So they took a look at it. We gave them access to all the accounting files and contract documentation that we had, and they formulated the 5-page memo and the 1-page checklist that we can refer to going forward. So with that, I'm not sure if there's any specific questions, but just as a general background, I got here in April of 2018, and the Chowder House had already been designed, bid, awarded, and I would say to 75% completion in the construction phase. So we're really just getting to the final push of some of the work that was being performed by JD Works with the contractor. CMA Engineering was the engineer of record, and we had obviously previous DPW director Carol Murray and previous project manager Sean McLean, who were conducting kind of the day-to-day operations. So that's where we came in and got to substantial completion by, I think, the beginning to late May, probably. And the Chowder House was being used for events and whatnot throughout the summer of 2018.
Was CMA also the design folks? They did both?
Yep, so they were the design engineer of record, so they did the original report, design
Okay.
documents that were bidded on during, to get to construction.
Okay,
And did have limited oversight during the construction as well,
okay.
which is kind of typical of a construction.
Okay. Okay. Well, do you want to give us just a quick overview of your findings? That would be wonderful, and then we can have questions.
John Bobrick, Bobrick Engineering. We are owners, project managers. We advise municipalities and private owners to, the state's procurement laws and the best practices with these types of projects. In general, we went through this project's documentation, and the documentation had a couple shortfalls in general as a project with the city's files. There was some inconsistencies with the information, particularly bids that were received. The engineers went through, as they were requested to, CMA by the town, which the town can always do, have the design engineering go through the documents once bids were received. And the prices that came back were kind of high. There were inconsistencies across the board. There were multiple pre-qualifications that were, the town had the right to omit certain areas and things like that in the best interest of the town. And I believe that this project, kind of strength, so recommended to push through, and they were ultimately utilized. The town's at the mercy of the low bid process. The laws out what they are, and you really can only stick to the tools that you have in procurement, which are pre-qualifications and certain standards and guidelines in the documents. And then speaking of the documents, there were some shortfalls in the design. You can never foresee every single problem. If anybody's ever done renovations on your house, for instance, you never know that the shower has been leaking for 25 years, right? You pull up the shower. So there was some of that came about, but there were other shortfalls that, maybe a code consultant reviewed to found. For instance, there was a change order to rebuild the staircase. Which could have gone into the documents, but ultimately, you might not have saved that much. The cost would have been incurred no matter what. So there were some inconsistencies like that across the board. One thing that was noted to me was the schedule of values that were provided. Right, so every single one of these, this project was bid as lump sum. So say it was a $100,000 bid, you put that in, and then you submit schedule of values to define each item. And you can tailor that to your request with any contractor. You know, if you feel that there's not enough information, or maybe there's things that weighted too heavily. Every contractor weighs their overhead on every bid price. And this one had a high level, I guess, of overview on the schedule of values, leaving some items particularly high, which is completely normal. I just want to put that out there. But you can ask to break that down further. And ultimately, going back to, this is the state's procurement laws, the prices are prices. The town did what they had to do. The bidding climate when this project was bid is also a strong indicator. The market right now is hot for any construction, no matter what you're doing. And public procurement versus private work generally has an overhead and prevailing wage rates and bonding and insurance and so on and so forth, which carries a cost on all of these projects. So once again, going back to the state's procurement, and the town did what they were required to do. But going back to the tools factor, and I'll close with this, is the town, you know, in any municipality, any owner, without the time constraints, you can put this type of project back out to bid, get more quotes. You know, all you're doing is wasting time and a very small amount of money when it comes down to it to rebid a project. And you can get better quotes if you solicit some more contractors, maybe give them some more time. That really helps things out. So, but in summary, this project had a lot of good intentions and just typical shortfalls of public procurement.
Thank you. Do you have anything to add? Anything else? No? Any questions?
No, I appreciate your thoroughness. And your,
Thank you.
yeah,
Yeah, I do have some.
I have a list of questions, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna let
Fire away.
my folks speak first here.
Well, when you talk about a possibility of the bid being protested, so you've got, you know, the higher bidder, is that who would protest the bid?
Correct.
And would they say, okay, well, I looked at your bid, my bid, and actually my bid's better because, is that?
Well, it's a completeness of the bid package
Mhm.
that's submitted. They can protest that, hey, the other contractor didn't submit for instance, a bid bond.
Right.
That's one of the requirements that was put in the bid documents in the RFP. So, but like I said, the town has the right to waive that if it's in the best interest of the town. And in this case, you say $100,000. And it was, I believe, this contract was ongoing on another project in town.
Mhm.
Yeah, they've been
Yeah.
doing the
So
library.
they're already performing some work, and maybe the other work is doing okay. You know, I wasn't there, but
We could have also done it the other way, where we could have said, you low bidder were not responsive, and therefore we want to go to the
Right.
second low bidder. And at that point, the low bidder could contest. So it's another issue of delays or potential project.
But if one does protest, that has to be addressed, is that's, I mean.
Correct.
You can't- okay.
That's their right. They have
Yeah.
that right.
Well, okay. I'm curious, do we know who the resident was, the resident engineer? That it says the town engaged with a resident engineer.
So again, that was, CMA did provide a limited scope for what we call construction services and resident engineering. So in this case, they were under
Like
contract.
Carpenter McNeil, is that what you're?
Nope, this is
CMA?
CMA.
Right,
So
and I don't know who
the
they are.
consultant. They were the design engineer
Okay.
doing the initial design, and then they were also, as the contractor would have submitted their schedule values or their submittals on, this type of stain or this type of decking material, the resident engineer or the engineer providing the construction services would review those submittals and say, yes, they meet our specs or they don't, and therefore you need to
Okay.
redo it.
So it was not a resident who happens to be an engineer.
No, it's
Somebody
just what we
said,
call-
I'll volunteer.
That's just what,
No.
right.
Okay, that was my question.
That's the rest of the population. We pay this one.
Thank you. And then I was just, who with the project management guide that you've provided, which is great to have, guidelines, who is it, who would be the stopgap? Who's the one who would ultimately oversee that, making sure each of those steps is met?
So that would be us, either the DPW, the project manager, or
Okay.
town administrator.
Well,
or
ultimately
whoever's-
myself, but then, so you got DPW, Nate and Chuck, myself, and then Andrea as well in terms of town accountant.
But so ultimately, it rests with you.
Ultimately.
Okay, that makes sense.
Also, to follow up on that, you pay your consultants, recommend based on their
Right.
knowledge of the industry. So there's a little bit of information that is provided to individuals, in every budget.
They own the success of the project as well, in one way or another. So it certainly rests with the town to do what's in its best interest, but you should have a consultant that's looking out for you,
I
making
understand.
those recommendations.
Thank you.
So one of the things that we did find out after the fact was staff changes going on in CMA during this time.
Mhm.
So our primary contact and principal engineer on the project, who designed it and was doing the bulk of the construction oversight, was phasing out. He was taking a new job. So I think that hurt us in this case. It certainly didn't help to have that going on.
Well, we had our own people.
Yes.
Phasing out of the
Right.
staff.
All those things happen.
So overall, it's not a hard number, but we probably paid in the vicinity of 50,000-ish, more than what we probably should have under a more tightly managed project, I would say.
This was very helpful.
Yes.
So I have a few thoughts, questions. So one of the things, and, I know it's always easy to look back, right, and say, oh, we should have done this, we should have done that. So taking stock in the fact that we had changes both on the designer side as well as our own internal piece of this, were a lot of moving parts. That said, though, I think there's some best practices even beyond a checklist that I think are important to consider. I think that we need to, as a town, be more diligent in our bidding process and looking at documents more thoroughly with accountability to say if they are inconsistent, if they have not basically have the correct, bids or the bid bonds or the performance bonds in there, that we should make a mental note and a decision and action based on that. Now, granted, if you're going to be doing bid bonds and it costs another $100,000, that's okay, but let's document that as a decision. Let's be really clear about why we're making the decisions we are on those kinds of things. I think that's a really important piece. And I get that this is somewhat of an art and a science. It's not all perfectly checklists, but I think what the overall feeling from this and that I walk away with is that there was a lot of things that were missed and not accountable to for the people that were running it at the time. Okay, so how do we do that beyond a checklist? I think some of that comes into this understanding that we need to be more diligent in looking at the bids. The other thing I would say is, and I would be very interested with CMA, they've done other projects for us.
Yes.
Several.
What else have they done?
So the Burnham Street drainage, that was their design. They had limited construction administration in that as well. The Morris Pier project that we're currently going to award, so we've received bids on that.
Yeah.
That's one, they were involved in the pedestrian bridge at the school.
Okay.
So that was more on the school side, but they were involved. I'm sure there's been a couple others.
Program?
They came in
To do the
behind.
fix.
They fixed the program.
So, and granted, again, I get that there's personnel changes here, but what I'm concerned about, and this is something I know in full transparency that people would want to know, is that if CMA has been a constant player or value in all of these projects, how are we assessing their performance and making sure that not only are we looking at our bids properly, how are we vetting our designers and holding them accountable and their project management accountable as well? So I think it's really important because I think the question will come back, particularly if they're active in Morse Pier and some other projects that are ongoing right now. How are we going to address those moving forward so that we can keep an eye on this? And can we have a second review of the bid documents that are out there now, making sure that all those things. And so I don't want to go back for, 10 years, but I think anything that's active, and certainly within the last year, just making sure that we, similar to what we did here on the signatory external, that we need to look at this. And I would really have a very strong conversation with CMA about the findings that we had here, and particularly on the Chowder House, and how that's concerning to the board and the town relative to their performance. And it's really important that they understand that we have a standard, and you guys are promulgating at this point, and I have full confidence that we'll do that. But I want to make sure that everybody who has a piece of the pie here has a stake in it and is accountable. So that's my other little soapbox piece. And then, let me see, there was one other thing here. That's the bidder. The schedule, we talked about the schedule of values, really important that we understand those pieces of, and I would say that anything over a certain value of dollars needs to have that broken down. We don't want to see $4,000 for whatever, it needs to be clear. So I would say that that would be another piece that I would throw in there as an important piece. The other thing is, what is the typical contingency, when you have, what is the typical
So for
percentage?
a lot of the work I did in my former company was with the state, doing state revolving fund. I'm guessing Manchester doesn't do that too much, but we take a loan from the state. But the state requires you that you take 5% contingency on all construction projects out with your loan. So
Yeah.
that's 5%. I'd say is pretty standard, typical. And if you come in under 5%, you're doing well. And that's why the state makes you carry that, because there are going to be issues that come up during construction, whether they can be foreseen or not.
Right.
There are things that do come up, and that's why they want you to have that money there, so it's readily available.
So with the uplift we had on this, on a 20% increase over the base contract amount, if we at least had the 5% contingency, that would have given us some room. Was that in there, or how does that work? Am I missing?
No,
this?
so when we bid this project and typical projects, we just award the value of the contract.
Okay.
So what Nate's describing would be if we had a line item in the contract, which actually I do know of some municipalities that do this in all of their bids. They carry a 5%, or they put a number on it, like based on the engineer's estimate. So if it's a $100,000 project and they want to carry 5% contingency within that award, there would be a $5,000 adder. So they would just have that line item in the contract so that it was there.
Is that typically best practice, or is it sort of
In their
depends?
case, it's because they're a commission, so they have to go back to their commissions and
Okay.
get the approvals, and it can be a lot harder. In our case, we would just issue a change order
Yeah.
on several projects, so you can do it either way. If it makes you, if you're really keeping score and you want to, track that, you can say, well, we had 0 change orders on all of our projects because we had 5% kind of into
Right.
the base bid. Or you can say, yeah, we have 5%, but that's industry standard, so we're doing really good.
The reason I like this is because it sets a standard, and it leaves us clear about what we're doing, because I think what happens oftentimes is you have overruns, which happen, we understand that, but when they're upwards of 20% or whatever, it raises the question of, well, how far off were we on actually scoping this? And
I would say not all change orders are created equal. So
Yeah.
sometimes there's owner-initiated
That's
change
true.
orders that
Yeah.
we expect to pay for, and then there's others that are extra work orders,
Yeah.
which are, we needed to replace the whole subfloor.
Yeah. Well, I would just say, be mindful of whatever, I'm trying to get to a pretty rigorous process to do it. So whatever works best in your estimation, I support, but I want to make sure we,
Yeah, certainly there's some elements of work that are harder to ballpark going in than others, but I think that it does come down to proper planning and implementation.
well, and I think, yeah.
That'll save you.
I think the rush on this was one of the gating factors on it. And I understand because people want to get it open for the season, but I think we have to be smart when we're making big decisions on money. And, you know, $50,000 is a lot of money, and we want to make sure that we're careful with it. And again, I'm not casting disparaging comments on anyone in particular, but I just think it raises the question and makes us wonder about that. So that really is about the, you know, the whole idea of getting it done right up front, I guess is my point. And that's where you've got to spend the time and energy on it. And if we're pushing too hard because it's unrealistic, then let's find a plan B to do the right thing. So that's important. I think, and we talked about the whole piece of oversight, which I know you guys are on at this point. So I think those are the basic pieces. Again, my issue with CMA is around the trend on this and making sure that we look at the current projects and make sure things are done. The checklist seems good to me. Looking at whatever we have for contingencies is fine. I think that it's hard sometimes when you have the CPA thrown in this as well in terms of pressure and budgets. So again, the ownership, I really want to make sure that the ownership comes back to you guys and that you're the ultimate arbiters of the decisions of how things are done. There's a lot of pressure with people with opinions and all of that, but it's really up to you guys to be the stake in the ground that makes that happen. So, all right. I think I could go on, but I won't. I think I covered most of my major ones. Does anybody else have any thoughts or comments on anything?
I like your idea of asking, kind of comparing what's been done or going forward with CMA, just to kind of say, all right, you know, let's keep an eye on things. And,
Well, and in particular, if they're doing more spear and stuff like that now, we want to make sure that review is well in place.
Yeah, I think we have started to instill them some more ownership than I think the easiest thing for me and what I've told them and what I'm going to start telling all of our consultants is rather than just send me a bill, send me a progress report. That's something that
Yep.
we all do on a pretty regular basis when we're on the other side of the table. Pretty simple. They want to get paid, so they should tell us what they've been doing. So that'll
Right.
lead to, you know, part of that is, are you on time, are you on budget, is there issues that need to be addressed, and then we can raise them. So that's the easiest one in my book to immediately. I do think looking at, you know, some of their work to date, you know, I think they're a solid engineering firm. They've given us proposals that we haven't awarded that I thought they were very competitive and thoughtful, but they certainly dropped the ball on.
Yeah, and that's why I just want to make sure that we're,
They're aware.
yeah, we're careful with that. That's good. I like the idea of the project updates, which comes to part of what Greg, we talked about. Again, I don't want to be in a position, nor am I on the board of micromanaging any of this. However, when we have big projects going, like a Morse Pier, a Chowder House, things like that, a once a quarter, every 6 weeks or something, report up on project status to date. Are we on track? Are we on budget? What are the, critical things that are happening right now? Do we have anything we need to be concerned about? Right? What are the risks right now against the project, time frame, money, whatever it might be, so that at least we have a very public discussion about where we are in this. Because we've gone through a period of the last few years where it hasn't been maybe as clear as it needs to be. I'm very confident it's on its way, but I think having those updates along with the things that we just talked about would be very helpful. All right. Any other thoughts?
Thank you.
Yeah, great. Okay. Anybody from the audience have any comments about this part? Okay. All right, thank you. Very good. Look forward to hearing back. Have a great holiday. Thanks for all your work.
Thank you all very much.
No,
Happy
yes,
holidays.
For your records.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Okay, so that was our engineering report. I know that we should, and Gail, maybe you can help us with, when we get these minutes together and the comments that we just made, I'd like to put that into a package that we send off to the person that sent the
Yep.
letter to us. Brenda Thorne, so she's got that information.
You do need your signatures on two items here. We did already approve the Tree City application.
Okay. We need a microphone? If you want to just, no, we have to do it for the TV, so if you can come up. Thank you.
Sue Mittermeier. I'm from 38 C Street, and I'm the new president for the Friends of Manchester Trees. And I just wanted to say thank you so much to especially Greg and Kay Mole and the DPW staff for helping with all the details in our Tree City USA application. And additionally, Tom Henderson, who always is a great support to us. So thank you so much. And I just love to see how hard you work for us. Thank you so much for all that you do as well.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you very
Thank you
much.
for taking
Yeah,
this on.
appreciate
It's
that.
wonderful.
Yes, thanks for doing it.
Thank you.
Great.
Is it just this page, or is it both?
All right, so we have signatures to do. What else do we have? We have town administrator goals and shared services. Those are the two things that are left, right?
Yes.
Is it just this
They're missing a couple of
Oh, yeah,
lines,
no, I know that, but do we sign both?
It's just
No, one is fine.
I saw that today.
Okay.
There you go.
I didn't know if anybody else, if that
I
was
just
something
signed
that,
it. Okay, I'll sign these after you.
you sure you don't want to sign?
I'll sign them before. Can I borrow your blue pens on that for a minute?
Yeah.
All right,
I don't think I'm contagious anymore, but
and Greg, do you want to just talk about the,
where do I sign?
Shared service?
just underneath me, the shared services piece, and then we'll,
Sure. So
and then we'll get into the.
we've officially received, thanks to the work of Essex, a community compact award to help with the exploration of shared services with Essex. The Lieutenant Governor came out last week and announced that award along with a second award, again spearheaded by Essex, for all 4 Cape Ann communities to participate further with the age-friendly and dementia-friendly initiative that senior care is heading out. So two good awards to receive. So with the award on the shared services, we are pursuing a consultant to help with that. We're in conversations with folks from the Collins Center. They're out of UMass Boston, and they provide consulting services to municipalities, a range of services. Michael Ward is one of the principals there who focuses on shared services, regional services. So he needed to consult with his associates to see if they had the time to do this right away or not. So that's the question. He was very excited about it and interested in helping. It's a question of when he can fit it in. And so if he's not able to do it, then there are a couple of other options that we'll pursue. But assuming that he can fit us in, if not right away, then certainly by the end of February at the latest. We talked about, regardless of when starting, that, hopefully there's 1 or 2 pieces of low-hanging fruit that we can bring forth for town meeting to at least show some progress on that score. Otherwise, the other analyses and work will take a few months. So it's probably a 6-month effort. And we'll be getting into details. So it's really about looking at specifics. How do we do it? How does Essex, how do they do it? What are opportunities for looking at some new approaches? And there, like I say, there may be some fairly easy ones that we can pick up sooner rather than later. One that comes to mind is, I think I might have mentioned this last time, the new OSHA regs are coming into play for all municipalities. And Essex's health agent has really delved into the details of that and is becoming an expert in it. And so that may be a service we can purchase from them without hiring someone totally brand new, but we could share some of her time help Essex a little bit on the finances there, but we get a new service for us as well. So that's an example of a fairly simple shared service. There may be some equipment options to more full-fledged analysis of departments that could be merged together. Time will tell. So I didn't know if you had any other ideas that you want to make sure we had on the list. Again, you can get those to me in the next couple, 3 weeks. Or if you wanted to kick around a couple of ideas now, but either way.
Is there an opportunity for that human resources piece that we've been bantering around?
Yes, initially, the reaction from Essex was not interested in that. That's not a cost that they're incurring, and they're managing okay with it at this point. So the initial reaction was, maybe not right now.
Julie?
Can you share waste collection, recycling, those kinds of things? Is that something that could be, I'm just thinking of.
So that's an example of where we might join together and bid it together. So we would be more attractive potentially to a contractor as a combined two towns, just volume. And they may be able to sharpen the pencil if they knew that they had both communities. So the short answer is yes, through a joint RFP process.
And by the same token, would it make sense to have, try to potentially, combine like a transfer station and compost area, things like that? So you're
Something to
sharing-
look at? Yes. Yes, we could look at that.
I think it's really good.
So yeah, that's worth taking a look at. Absolutely.
Yeah, so I would certainly add that to the list. Those are good suggestions. I would love to see for January 7th, sort of your and Brendan's take on the top 10, in terms of priorities of what would be the, low-hanging fruit, easy ones that we can address pretty quickly, but also what would be your ideas on some of the guidance we'd want to give to a potential consultant. And if we have any consultants that are in the mix by then, certainly presenting their credentials and talking a little bit about time frame and where they are, and if this one doesn't work, what would be option B and what would the time frame be?
Yes.
So I would say the two pieces for me on the 7th would be quantifying a little bit about the options of what you and Brendan think would be the direction, and secondly, sort of where we are with the consultants with timeframes.
And is the joint January 7th still?
Right, so we're due to go
Okay.
to Essex
So are
on the
we
7th.
starting our regular meeting earlier? Did we figure that out?
Yes.
Because I just keep thinking, we've already talked tonight about 4 or 5 things that are January 7th.
Yeah.
And we got to be shorter so we can get over Essex, so.
Right, okay. So we may want to meet at
I
6.
think we should be at 6, if we can, yeah. And we'll make sure whatever we have on the agenda will be pretty crisp, because we'd have to leave here about 7:15 or so.
I think-
Or 7:30.
I think we're due at 7:30
Oh,
or
perfect.
8. They were okay with, so we do have a little bit of
Right,
time.
okay, all right. But I think starting at 6 would be good.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay, great. Any other comments, shared services? Okay. All right. Last on our agenda is the town administrator goals for next year. And that document went through. Greg had a couple comments on it. As soon as I can find my copy, I'll pull it up and we can chat about it. Oh, okay. I have it here, but I just found it. This is great. So I just want to give sort of an overview, Greg, and we can get into some detail. Our goal here was not to give you 17 goals to try to get done this year. Rather, to be more specific, and I think we've narrowed it down to, well, there's 8, but it's better than 17. So some of them are well underway and moving forward. But the first one was around fire and the fire department strategy, understanding the action plan and formulating the leadership and staffing, to look at what we're going to do short and longer term. Hoping that by March 1st, we'll have a initial run at what you're thinking about, and obviously giving you some feedback on that as well. But I think it's understanding sort of in the context of the next 3 to 5 years, what would maybe be our progression of managing the fire piece and what we're looking at. And granted, while I understand there may be some question and ideas about what we might be able to do and not do with Essex in terms of personnel, could there be other things administratively, equipment-wise, or things that might fall into some of that strategy? The second is around budget, which I think we've got our hands pretty well around, but I think your point of adhering to a year-round budget cycle and really making sure that the selectmen and the FinCom are very engaged on that process. I think one of the things with quarterly reviews happening starting in April after town meeting, that we have an update not only of the ongoing pieces, but where we are to do with things. That's an important piece. So we're hoping by March 1st we'll have a place for us to do that. Town administration HR management, as well as town administration IT management, that's really about identifying and executing a strategy for those two pieces. Looking for June timeframe around what that looks like. These are things we've been talking about for a while, and I think we're slowly chipping away at the list and getting things done so that we can actually get down to developing and looking at approaches that might be creative and however we might do that. The last two are the larger pieces, and these again will be segmented out, but it's really about the execution of the master plan. Building those specific departmental goals as we roll that out, where the departments play, how the committees work and interface with that, and begin to set the roadmap for how we're looking at things within the context of the next 10 years on the master plan. So again, that will be tied into some of the things that we're looking at around town facilities, shared services, economic development, housing diversification, and capital needs. So those are important. And the final thing, which we just talked about, was the regionalization. So those are sort of the big buckets. I would say the first 6 are more of the tactical things that we really want to look at honing in and completing this year. The second 2 around the master plan and regionalization have a little bit more of a far-reaching goal, but very interested in getting short, mid, and long-term plans for those that we can look at within the context of each year. So, any other comments from? And I know we had some additional objectives at the end that were a little amorphous. I think they were put here mostly because they were carryovers from last year. Some of the things that we talked about doing, and rather than just letting them fall, I think it was important for us to put these on here. And I would say, talking about the economic development, that's part of the regionalization master plan, the environmental risk, climate safety, and change in our resiliency, our town communications and engagement. These are things that I think are almost ongoing, but we wanted to make sure that we pointed to them as important pieces that we want to include. So I would say, rather than looking at these as a start and end, this would be more of an update on a quarterly basis on these topics. So where are we against the economic development in the LCD? Where are we against the environmental risk and the climate change and resiliency? Town communications and engagement, how are we continuing to work on that? The leadership and the performance of town hall, these are all things that you're working on. And so I would look at these objectives as being opportunities for you to feed back to us, in addition to your goals, more of a working document than, goals, you must complete this by that date.
Mhm.
So I don't know if that makes sense to you.
It does, yeah.
And then we just went on about the project management piece, so. But does that make more sense in the context of what they're meant to be?
Yes, I think putting them in this context of ongoing, and that
Yes.
I will be basically chipping away at this,
Mhm.
hopefully for multiple years, in some ways.
Right.
I mean, I'd love to get stuff done, but a lot of these will take multiple years to really to really accomplish.
Right.
So as long as it's not the expectation that, you know, we're going to be fully resilient to climate change by
Well, I
a year from
expect that
now.
to happen, but, you know, I understand you're only human, so there's, it's only
Yeah,
so much we
exactly.
can do.
Exactly.
But I think that what's important is, one of the things that I realized when I was writing the review last time, we did so much stuff that I wasn't totally aware of, right?
Right.
And so I think we wanted to give you sort of the guideposts
Yeah.
on this, to be able to say, so here's your, 6 major, 2 longer term, but here's some objectives. And that as you come back to us in April, after town meeting, where are we against these? And we'll use this document as our guide to look at, so that we don't have time go by without reporting on it. And
Yep.
it just makes it easier for you, because the expectations are clear, makes it easier for us as we, monitor what's going on.
Sure. No, that makes
So,
sense.
yeah. Anything else?
Yeah, there was your question, Greg, finally, what metrics are we looking for regarding, any organizing, preparing for the next effective meeting with action? Did we answer that one? This board here. This last board.
Oh, okay.
So it was part of, it was one of the bullets under leadership.
Oh, okay.
Managing town hall, working with committees.
I just didn't know if we'd answered, if that had been answered, addressed and answered.
So from my perspective, and I think this is, when you've engaged your department heads to come and, like we're doing with the project management piece, it's very clear that they've got it, they're working it, they're making it happen, they're accountable. What other opportunities do you have within the staff to do those things? And to make sure that the preparation of meetings and all the work that goes behind all of this isn't just you as the single point to figure this out,
Yep.
but how you will utilize your staff and create the place that you can answer the questions in a way that it's not all burdensome for you. I think that's how you intention it. That answers the question, but that's what I was thinking.
So part of that, the goal there, you really bring them in more.
Absolutely, absolutely. I love the idea of a quarterly, it seems like a lot, but I think just from the project management piece, so we have the DPW back in, beginning of March. How are we doing on Morse Pier? What did you find with this?
Yep.
I mean, obviously, if something pops up, but we're having a continuous conversation. So it's not just, where are we on this?
Yep.
Okay?
Yeah, no, that's good, that makes sense.
All right, so we will adopt those goals for you and move forward with that. And I think this is obviously, is a public document. And, we certainly want to share it with your team and make sure that they understand, because they're going to be setting their goals against what your goals are. It's how it kind of all works together. All right. Did you have something else you wanted to ask a question about?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, and this was, I'd mentioned to you that I got an email about this municipal climate summit. And did you get that muffin?
That was up in
Sent out?
North Andover, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, and it
Yes.
came Jacob Stern, Sierra Club,
Yes.
and I didn't know if that's something that,
I was planning to go to that.
Oh, good. I just want to make sure we have representation.
Yes.
okay,
And-
Right, that
and,
works.
Certainly if one of you want to go as well, that's
Yeah,
fine. I'm certainly happy to report back to you on it.
yes. I think it'd be great to have representation. Okay. My last topic is, we have our board training set for, this is where I'm getting a little worried about January. It's January 10th and 12th, which is not that far away.
No.
And do we get that off to Neil, the document? Because I lost my computer on Friday. I don't know if it went, but we need to send that
To
tomorrow.
make sure to, I don't think I did.
Okay.
I had it all ready to go and then.
Yeah.
something
So
happened.
let's get it to him, and we need to schedule a conference call with Neil for myself, Greg, and Alida, probably, if we can do something the end of this week,
Yeah, it would be nice.
would be ideal. I'm available on Friday, so it would be good to do that. I'd like to get it done before Christmas. But more importantly, we need to get a message out to all of the chairs and vice chairs of the boards and committees and department heads and let them know this is happening, the time frame, and, you know, it's a 3-hour block of time. I'm a little worried, I wish we had thought about this and gotten to save the date out a little sooner. I wish we had gotten to save the date out a little sooner,
So they're choosing either the 10th or the 12th.
It's one or the other.
one or the other. So hopefully they'll accommodate both.
That needs to get out quick.
So that needs to go out tomorrow.
Yeah, well, so we've got a staff meeting tomorrow for our department and so on.
Okay. And then let's just spend a few minutes after the meeting, the three of us, and get all the calendar dates, and we'll get that out to the board so everybody knows what's going on. All right, Muffin, do you have anything else?
I do not.
Anything else for us?
I do have one more thing I wanted to ask, and I was wondering, would it be helpful if each of the boards and committees wrote a synopsis of what they believe, what they do, so that, you know, we know, and there was something I was looking at, and I have to go over that later, but, and, you know, conversely, we let everybody know what it is we do, because I'm not really,
Well, that's what the training's about.
okay.
Okay, so we're
Right.
talking about roles and responsibilities and guidelines and how to
Okay.
run effective meetings. And it may not get down to the specific charges, but I think one of the outcomes of the meeting could be, let's make sure we document this.
Yeah,
So
I just think that.
it's totally true because people don't, unless you're in the middle of this stuff, sometimes you don't always know how the operations work. So.
Exactly. Thank you.
All right, anything else, Greg?
Nope, I'm good.
Anything else in public? Comment, anything? Thank you for coming. Oh, thank you. That's very nice. Have a great holiday, everybody. Merry, merry. All right, I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yes. Hopefully to close.